If you want to heal emotionally, you have to focus on what you're doing now, not what's happened in the past. Talking about your past won't heal you. Taking action now will. But you need to take the right action. You heal yourself emotionally by getting good at three components: learning self regulation, making mindfulness a habit, and practicing self acceptance and self compassion. The trick is that you need to do those in somewhat of an order. So last week in episode 316, we went all in on self regulation, which really needs to be a first priority. This week, you'll learn to master mindfulness and self acceptance and self compassion. And it's okay if you haven't listened yet to last week because these stand alone, but I do want you to go back and listen. All right, let's dive in. Welcome back to the podcast. You know I'm your host, Dr. Abby Medcalf, and we are in 2025 now, and there are big changes happening in Abby Medcalf world. If you want to hear about more about those, about the things that are happening with my weekly love letter and Patreon, my online One Love community, One Love Collective, this community online, then please stay till the end and I will give you details about that if you haven't already heard them. But yeah, there's a lot of good things coming down the pike. But let's get into today. So last week we did self-regulation. Again, that stands on its own. If you haven't listened to that yet, you'll be fine today. But I'm really been working hard with my clients on their emotional healing, not just, talking about the past, which again is very important. If you've never spoken to anyone about the truth of something, maybe you were abused or neglected, or maybe, God forbid, there was active violence, or who knows, and you've always kept it a secret, then of course you need to talk about it. You need to tell someone. You need to be open about what happened and get past that shame. What I find though is that a lot of people will talk about an event over and over and over, and nothing is changing. They still are into doing the same bad habits they always did. They still can't, lose weight. They're still eating emotionally, or they're still dating bad people for them, or unavailable or toxic people. They're getting into, unhealthy relationships. They're still have no boundaries with their mom. It goes on and on. And so you're not healed emotionally if that's what's happening. Healing emotionally means that your life starts to feel very different. You've healed this thing that has happened to you or happened for a long time, whatever. It could be a one-time event, could be years and years of something. And I'm not saying you forget about it and never think of it again, but I'm saying you're not reacting from that place. And that's what we're really looking for. So go back and listen to self-regulation and managing your emotions, which is part of self-regulation. All the links are there and everything else. And today, let's start with part one, which is making mindfulness a habit. And that's number two on the, self-regulation's one, making mindfulness a habit is two. So, so let's get into that. Now, let me just say, so mindfulness is the practice of being present in the moment without judgment. Okay. It's about observing your thoughts, your feelings, any sensations that arise in your body, and letting them pass without attaching to them. We talk a lot about kind of a cloud floating by. It's the foundation or a foundation of emotional healing because it really teaches you how to create a space between your thoughts and your reactions. Most of us learn, I'm sure Pavlov's dog, right? They were conditioned to when a bell rings, they would salivate even if no food was there. There was what we call a stimulus, the bell ringing, and a response to them salivating or drooling. And this happens to us people all the time. There's a stimulus, somebody says something, we think our partner is criticizing us, we think someone's being mean, and we react. There's a stimulus and a response. What we forget is that there's actually a window in there, what I call the pause button, or many people call the pause button, where there can be a stimulus and it's almost like a slow motion thing going on, where you can actually be aware that there's a stimulus happening and then choose your response as opposed to a knee-jerk reaction. I know. Imagine this world. It's pretty miraculous. And you can get there. You really, really can, I promise. So, and let me also say that self-awareness is not the same as mindfulness, and meditation is not the same as mindfulness. Meditation can help you be more mindful. It is a practice in that realm, but you do not have to meditate to be mindful. I just want to be very clear. I highly recommend meditation. I have a lot of stuff on that on the website, but there's a meditation starter kit if you want free, if you want to download that. I have how to meditate for 15 minutes in 15 days, a little mini course that's pretty inexpensive if you want to get that. Obviously, I like Insight Timer, and there's Headspace and Calm and all the apps. No, they're not sponsoring me. There's lots of ways to do it, free or paid, whatever you want. But I'm talking today about mindfulness. And self-awareness is not mindfulness. Again, when we're mindful, we're more self-aware, but they don't equal each other. And the example I always give, you've heard it, is that I am very self-aware that I get controlling as a fear response. When I'm feeling afraid, I get very controlling. I know, hard to believe. And so I'm self-aware that I'm a controlling gal, but I'm not always mindful that I'm doing it. Sometimes I've already done it, and then I go, oh God, I can't believe I just said that. So mindfulness would be that I would be so in my moment that I would feel that urge to, control someone or tell them what to do, and I would stop myself. That's where the mindfulness comes in. So I hope that makes sense. All right. And I'm going to use a scenario that happened with some clients. This is a while ago, but it's a good one. And I think it applies to a lot of people. So let's say you're out with your partner running errands, okay? And the day, it's going fine, but there's a lot to do, and your mind is like consumed with all the things, right? I'm sure you've done this, or maybe you're out with your friend or your mom or somebody, right? And one of the goals that this couple had for that day was to buy a home security system, okay? So my client and it was her partner, who was male. And and they've been living together many years, blah, blah, blah. And they had all this list to do. Anyway, all the stuff was going on. So they had to buy this home security system. And the good news is that she and the partner had already done all the research. They at home, they talked about it. They decided on the best one to fit their needs, just so they could get in and go, right? They were going to like a Home Depot kind of place. So they get there, they make it to the local, Ace Hardware, Home Depot type store. And there it is on the shelf. There's the one that they wanted. Okay. They'd even checked to make sure the store had it. However, she says they get there and her partner starts seeing, Home Depot had like 50 options for home security systems. And now he starts having second thoughts, and he wasn't ready to commit, right? He wanted to go over the different systems again. And he was talking to her. He's like, hey, this one has this. I didn't realize that. I don't think we saw that online. And this one has this, and blah, blah, blah. And here's my client with this list of things to do. They have 2 young children who were being watched by her parents. So they only had so much time to get this stuff done. And she thought this was like an in-out thing, right? And her patience is waning. This is taking way longer than she allotted time for. And, they had like 10 other things still to get done that morning and get back that she thought were way more important, right, in her view, than this home security system, or, right? And she's starting to feel like this is a waste of time. It's all her partner's fault. She starts thinking he always does this. We decide on something and then we end up re-examining and wasting time. Why can't he ever make a decision and just stick to it? Why does it always have to be such a big thing? All the talking and the research, just decide already. I've got more important things to do, right? This is all going on in her head. And by the way, she was so proud of herself because she knew he was like this. And she had taken this time. She's like, hey, let's research. You like the research. You like to look at everything. Let's do that before. She was trying to honor who he was, right? So she thought she'd done everything perfectly. She was so proud of herself because she just is like, that one has 5 stars. You know what I mean? Pick it, we'll go, we're fine. And he is definitely very into all the tech stuff and really likes to spend time on it. So she's feeling anxious, right? Resentful, a little overwhelmed now as she's thinking of the rest of her day, having to pick up the kids again, and at first she wasn't saying all the things. Okay. At first she said she wasn't even noticing that she was thinking the thoughts, right? Or having the feelings. But soon that was growing. Her impatience was growing. She started to get snippy. and, heavy sighs and, I think the first one's great or the second one you like sounds perfect. Let's get it. She was just trying to like move it along, right? She didn't care. And he didn't budge and he continued to ask questions and is now trying to, find the guy at Home Depot. Good luck, right? The guy at Home Depot. I don't know what country you're listening, but Home Depot is a very large warehouse kind of store. There aren't many people seemingly working there to help. It's not a good time. And she just snapped. Finally, she snapped. She's like, just get the first one. We don't have time for this. Why do you always make such a big production of everything? She starts with the always language, the never language. You never can decide. It's always such a big thing. You always make these simple things so hard. You're driving me crazy, right? Blah, blah, blah. So you can imagine what ensues after that. It's a lovely fight. He didn't say a word because that's what he does. He shuts down when she gets in this place. And again, he's like, what is she so upset about? We're like, look, we're spending an extra few minutes. That's in his head, right? On some home security. Our home security is a big deal and we have to make sure we're safe and blah, blah, blah. So to him, this was a thing. And this couple happens to live in San Francisco and there's a lot of crime in areas close by. I mean, he was really like, to him, this was a very important decision. And they ended up mad all day. He was giving her the cold shoulder. He was freezing her out. It was not good. So now we can sit here and dissect what really happened, right? What really is going on. And what really is going on is that, first of all, there's a lot of future tripping and there's a lot of past tripping. Okay. So she wasn't in her moment at all. She wasn't sitting there at the store. She was future tripping. She was thinking about all the things that had to get done that day. She was starting to imagine what wouldn't happen and what they would need to rearrange. She was predicting more stress for herself later due to the current outing taking longer than they anticipated. She's thinking of all these, now dinner isn't going to happen because we can't stop at the grocery store. And then the kids are going to be upset because they're not going to have dinner on time. She's doing that. She's thinking of the whole rest of her day. All right. And not saying that, but because it happened so quickly in her head. But she's already on that. I can't ask my parents to watch the kids any longer. They're getting older and blah, blah, blah. And my mother always feeds her son has a gluten allergy, but the mother refuses to acknowledge it. And so he always wants things with gluten and then he gets sick and it's a thing. So what was also happening is that she was past tripping, right? Whenever you would use words like always or never, that you're thinking about the past, your partner or whoever it is, you're thinking about their past behaviors. Deep down that it's not okay to use the words always or never because they're not true. It's not true that he never has made a decision. It's not true that he always changes his mind. It happens often, but it's not always. And just so you know, a little shout out here, when you use those words with people and when they use them with you, well, think of that. Let's do that first. When someone uses it with you, what do? You immediately think of the time that they're wrong. When they say, you never listen to me. You're like, what? Last night for half an hour, I did this, or you don't appreciate me. What? The other day I said, thank you for dinner. And then I brought you a gift and that, right? We rebut whatever we hear always or never. And trust me, when you're doing it to your partner or your mom or whoever, that's what they're doing. So you have ceased to make your point. I can't even say enough. If you get nothing else out of the podcast today, don't say always and never anymore. Just stop it. Just take it out of your language. At the very least, try to catch yourself and stop yourself and say, sorry. I know it's not always. I know there's times when you appreciate me, but I'm talking about whatever. Okay. But in the moment, it's very easy to go there when you're upset, right? It really is. And the big problem with the whole scenario is that with my client, especially here, she was allowing her mind to wander to the future and to the past. When you do it, you start thinking of these things and these thoughts evoke feelings because you feel the way you think. What do I say all the time? You feel the way you think. So that's what's going on. And these types of thinking patterns and the ensuing fights are incredibly common, but they really don't have to be. There's a simple, I'm not saying easy, but simple answer to stop all that. And that's, again, to be in your moment with what's currently happening as much as possible, instead of in the future or in the past. Okay. So the answer is to be mindful, because when you're in your moment, you're okay. Otherwise, it means otherwise you're just off and running. You're on autopilot. When you're aware when these thoughts and feelings arise, you can stop them. You get off of autopilot and into what's real in the here and now, right? When you're mindful, you're aware of what you're thinking. So you don't let your thoughts and feelings blindly drive your actions and your behaviors. You stop having all those face palms later, like, oh, why'd I do that? Why'd I say that? So in the moment, and I was talking to my client, and I said, well, what would have happened if you had just have been mindful and had stopped? And, she took a breath and she's like, well, I guess I just would have said something like, hey, we had plans for a certain amount of things today. I'm noticing I'm getting really impatient. I don't want to be. I know you think this is really, for you, this is really important. So what should we do right now? How should we problem solve this right now? Because we really do have a bunch of stuff to get done. I'm getting worried about the kids and my parents and dinner later and da-da-da. And sometimes, you do that and the other person's like, oh, you shouldn't have to worry about all that stuff. The kids will be fine. They don't need to eat anything, or whatever. But, and again, you can just be mindful and stop and go, you know what? I feel like you're dismissing what I'm saying is important to me. I'm sitting here trying to value what's important to you, which is spending more time on the security system. And I'm not looking for us to argue about whose thing is more important. I'm looking for us to problem solve so we both can get what we need, right? When you're mindful, those are the kinds of conversations you have. When you're in your moments, you stop. Or, she also said to me, she goes, well, I guess I could have just called my mother and said, hey, leave the kids with dad. And my dad's capable. And could you go get this stuff for dinner? So I didn't have to worry about it. Or can you feed the kids dinner? She said, or I guess we could have stopped at McDonald's for dinner one day and it wouldn't have been the end of the world. There's a lot of things that can happen if you let go and you just are in the moment. And you'll see, I promise, that there's things that you thought that were so important and you get so rigid about. But when you're in the moment, you can find different sorts of compassion and kindness and thoughtfulness. We call this metacognition, when you're sort of stepping outside yourself, almost like you're a third person looking down at yourself, noticing like, wow, I see, my client would have done something like look down at herself in Home Depot and noticed how upset she was over a really small thing. It's a, home security system and he's taking too long. Like, this isn't divorce worthy conversation, right? He's not, she sort of joked with me. She goes, God, I act like he's, like cheating in front of me with another woman. It's true. We get so upset and so uptight because we're we're thinking about the future or we're worried about the past. And you can't go there. You have to be in the moment. And mindfulness is, seriously, a superpower. It helps you, again, stay in that moment because you're avoiding conflicts. You're avoiding misunderstandings. You're creating more ease, more contentment, more happiness in your life in general. And you're going to find more intimate and connected relationships. When you stop and have those kind of conversations with your dad or your partner or your friend, it's like amazingly bonding. Like, hey, we're in this together. Let's figure this out. Whatever that is. And together you're figuring out what's next. When you're being mindful, again, you're able to act, not react. You're going to notice that you're having that negative or unhealthy thought and that you're becoming impatient or angry or resentful or whatever it is. And you can tell yourself something different about the situation. You can step back and see what's happening from a new stance. Like, even part of you, I would hope, and I said this to my client, I was like, your wonderful partner he is very thoughtful about things. He's very meticulous. He's a scientist and by trade. And he actually makes a lot of money doing that. And I said to her, and she likes it in a lot of ways when he thinks of things for the kids. Like, he comes up with really cool things for the kids to do and he teaches them things and he just really loves to teach. And I said to her, there's so many good things that come out of him being this kind of scientist geek guy. So you can't just say, oh, I love all those, but I hate those. People are people. Like, this is him. So how do you accept all of him? I'm not saying you like all of him. I'm saying, how do you accept all of him? Like, you don't get to just cherry pick. You don't just get the good part, the part that works for you, because this is part of what makes him this way too, is sitting there with all the things. I said, and maybe next time, send him on his own for the security system. Because you can even say it to him, I love you so much. I don't care what you choose. And I know how important this is to you. I want you to spend all day there. Have yourself a party. You spend the entire day getting a home security system. Like, I'm good, Like, you can do that too. It doesn't always have to be this like we have to do it together and we have to go. It's like, you don't have to do that. So really all this is a new way of thinking about, a new way of thinking, like I just said with this is, and she ended up saying something like, I know my partner well, and this comes up whenever they're anxious, right? Because she was remembering that he was anxious about the robberies and things that have been happening in the neighborhood. And she started to wonder, she started to remember that. She goes, yes, this is how he gets. And she's like, I love him and I want to be supportive. He thinks that protecting his family is the top priority. Now, this particular client is from San Francisco, and her husband is from like a more kind of, suburban, safe area he's, I think, originally from New Mexico or somewhere. And he's just not, like, to her, the crime or the stuff going on is part of city living. It doesn't freak her out the way it freaks him out. It's not like she likes it, but she has a different ease with it than he does. So do you know what I mean? She started to think of that. She's like, yeah, and he comes from here and I come from here and it's so much easier for me. And, this is how you get into a different sort of point of view about what's happening. So going into the conversation with an intention of love and support and not of controlling a particular outcome yields different results. That is the thing to remember. And you can do it when you're mindful, right? So again, she could have been like, hey, hon, let's stop for a minute. We discussed all this earlier and decided on X security camera. What's happening now that you're changing your mind and not trusting our earlier decision, right? Like, there's a lot of ways to go about it that aren't so, again, rigid and focused on one outcome in a certain way. And when you're asking questions, that's what happens. Like, when you're mindful, you start asking questions. You start being curious. That's what's really beautiful about it. So your tone is patient and curious instead of accusatory and impatient and annoyed. And I'm telling you, just even if you said the same thing, but from that sort of like heart versus, even if you said the same thing, like, what are we doing here? But if it was from the love, I'm telling you, people pick up on it, they feel it, and it feels really different. The conversation goes very differently, and the rest of your day progresses differently too. So instead of, them having been in this Cold War, they would have been in a very different place. And when you're asking questions like, hey, what's going on, or something, people feel heard, they feel seen, they feel important, they feel appreciated, but also it's helping the situation. So in this case, and other things came up. So, in our work together, she and I talked, and she said, yeah, he does this a lot, where again, he makes a decision and stops. But since she's been doing the mindfulness thing, she's able to stop and go, hey, we, again, from love, you decide, or not even the two of them together, you decided on this yesterday, talk to me. What goes on with you doubting your decisions? I want to learn. She was really curious and wanted to learn why he doubted his decisions so much. And it helped him open up and helped him stop doubting his decisions, because he wasn't even aware he was doing it so much. So, and that ended up, right? And now he's not doubting him as much. And now they're getting along better because she's getting more of what she wants. It's really the way you get to where you want to be, not in a manipulative way, but in a true, helpful, supportive, love way. And you really you just end up with a more satisfying and connected relationship. I can just tell you that. But I think the most powerful and important thing that comes from being mindful is how you'll feel about yourself. It feels so good to be in charge of you, right? You will not say ever again, oh, I can't help how I feel, or I just can't help it. I can't stop myself. I can't stop being angry or sad, or insert, sucky feeling here. You can get in front of those feelings and stop the automatic responses. It's incredibly, incredibly liberating. Mindfulness makes your life awesome. It just does. It is. I don't think there's anything in my world that not anything that has changed my life as much as being more mindful. And by the way, you're never perfect at it. I screw up all the time. I'm just saying when you sort of try to make it a habit, it just becomes more entrenched. And again, there's been extensive research about mindfulness and it about the multitude of ways it's effective in reducing mental health symptoms, reducing stress, loneliness, rumination, anxiety, depression. I will link to all the research as I always do. It enhances your physical health. Get this. Research shows that mindfulness can lower your blood pressure, reduce chronic pain, and even improve the quality of your sleep. I like, what else do you need? But so I want to, there's a ton of research, but I want to quickly say just 4 important things here, right? Just, yeah, I just want to kind of pull these out and how it's really affecting your relationship. So mindfulness decreases emotional reactivity. That's the thing to really get. Basically, you're able, again, to act, not react, which is huge for being a better person, a better partner. It allows you, again, that pause button, between some stimulus and your response. Its second thing it does is it increases something called cognitive flexibility. And I love this. This means that, so in addition to being less reactive in a moment, you're able to think better. You're able to problem solve, come up with better solutions. The research shows that it neurologically, get this, neurologically disengages the automatic pathways that were created by prior learning and enables present moment input to be integrated in a new way. How do you like that? That's basically a fancy way of saying you'll be able to come up with new thoughts about things. Okay. But I love it. I mean, really, you don't even realize you're not thinking of new thoughts because you're stuck in this other place. When you're mindful, your creativity is off the chart. You're thinking of things, you're problem solving in a whole new way. Again, the research shows it. So the third thing is that it creates greater relationship satisfaction. There is a ton of empirical evidence showing that mindfulness protects against the emotionally stressful effects of conflicts in your relationship, helps you respond better to relationship stress overall. It helps you communicate your emotions to your partner in a healthy way, right? Win, 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 ding, ding, ding. Okay. And the fourth thing that I think is so important is that when you're mindful, you'll remember all the great tools that Abby taught you in those moments of stress and conflict. Instead of going into autopilot, you'll be able to stop and access what you learn, what I taught you, or what you learned somewhere else to help your relationship. So no more face palming later. Oh, why didn't I say this? Or, oh, I can't believe I said that. Because in the moment, you'll be able to do different. I know, not always perfectly, but trust me, it gets there. So the quickest way to make mindfulness a habit, to me, this is the surefire way. You've heard me say it before, but I'll say it again. It's in my mindfulness starter kit. If you want to download that, that's what I talk about. It is to, and it's what I still do. I've been practicing this for probably 20 years or more. I still do this from time to time just to keep my sort of mindfulness game up, and good, is you set a reminder on your phone to alert you 3 times a day. I don't care what the times are, but try to spread them out a bit, okay? So it could be 8 a.m., 2 p.m., 7 p.m., whatever you do. And just go about your day. When you hear the alert, just notice where your mind was, what you were thinking about. That's all you're supposed to do. And then gently bring your focus back to the present as non-judgmentally as possible. Trust me, you're going to be washing the dishes. It's going to go off. And you were realizing that you were thinking about, putting the kids to bed in 5 hours or whatever. Or you were thinking about a past, that embarrassing thing you said at a meeting 3 days ago. Trust me, you're going to wash you're not going to be thinking, oh, the warm soap feels so good on my hands. And I'm grateful to be here washing dishes where I have a beautiful home and warm water. And no, that's not where your mind's going to be. So you don't be judgmental. Don't oh, what's wrong with me? Why can't, no. We're kind. So be kind to yourself. Just bring your awareness back to the present moment. That's all you're trying to do. And then you're going to set an intention for how you want to be moving forward in your day. That's it. It's going to take you seconds. And do this for 3 days. Do this for 1 week. I usually do 3 days at a time for myself. And what happens is you start training your brain to look to be mindful in your moments without you setting the reminder. Okay. I use this anytime I've noticed that I'm being reactive or I'm having consistent negative thoughts or emotions, or when I have a lot of like just, we just had some holidays here in the United States when right before I'm recording this. And I was noticing I was getting really anxious a lot and controlling as I get. So I was really putting on I was putting on those reminders, baby. Um, and really, I want you to think about incorporating mindfulness into your daily activities wherever you can, right? So again, like whenever you wash the dishes, you try to focus on washing the dishes. Walk your dog. Don't do anything. Don't listen to music. Don't bring your phone. You know, really focus in the moment. One of my favorite things to do is if I'm standing on any line, is just to stand in the line. I don't pull out my phone. I don't try to busy myself. I just stand there and I actually kind of look around. I often will even try to start a conversation with whoever's in front of me or behind me. It's a wonderful way to practice being social, to just be a person in the world, connecting with other people. And you can remember to use if you want. I call it the SINGS method, SINGS, SINGS, which the S is stop what you're doing. The I is to inhale and exhale consciously for one breath, just nothing special, but just be aware. You're going to turn on the vagus nerve that way. Nice slow exhale. No, N is notice what you were thinking about. The G is gently bring your attention back to the present, again, non-judgmentally. And the final S is to set that intention, right? Just set intention. And I want to be mindful the rest of the day, or I want to drive safely. I'm getting in my car. I want to drive safely. I'm going to really focus on the road, or I'm walking in my house. My intention is to be really fun, to be light, to be open, to be loving, to be sexy. Maybe it's just you and your partner at home. I don't know what's happening. Or sexy time alone. That's a good time too. Uh, is Abby talking about masturbation? Sure I am. Come on. It's good stuff. All right. Now, I'm going to give you a few advanced mindfulness techniques because why not? And I love you. And here we are. So once you've kind of, but do this after you've sort of mastered the basics. One thing that is really great is to do a body scan. Again, these are from the research. This involves, it's really focusing on each part of your body from your head down to your toe, sort of noticing sensations. Usually you would tense the area and then relax it. Body scan meditations, there's tons of them around, are really helpful in reducing stress, reducing pain, enhancing physical awareness. Like there's a lot of good research about them. And I will give a shout out to my Patreon online community starting soon because this recording will be when we started Patreon. So if you're on Patreon, you will be getting a free body scan recording that I've done. It's about 20 minutes. It's my melodic voice, which you seem to enjoy, taking you from your head down to your toes. So that is for you special. How do you like that? Because I love you. There you go. It's a little special extra thing. But if you're not in the community, it's fine. You can find these in a lot of places. The second thing I would really suggest you do is some mindful journaling, setting aside 10 minutes a day to write about your thoughts and feelings. Journaling mindfully really helps you process emotions and gain clarity. Again, don't just sit and complain, but, right, vent in that way, but do that. And again, in the Patreon community, I'm going to be having journaling prompts, so you can use those. But again, just mindful journaling, you can do this in a lot of ways. And obviously, mindfulness in a conflict is really your goal. So during a disagreement, to pause and to try to notice your body's physical reactions, right? Like, is there tension in your jaw? Maybe you have an upset tummy, a racing heart. And that kind of awareness can really help you respond rather than react, which promotes much healthier communication in the moment. I would often, again, with my mom, but with my partner too, and other people, sort of stop when I notice myself getting kind of hot and go, Abby's having a hard time. Abby is struggling there. Oh my gosh, my stomach is churning. I'm holding my breath up in my chest, and I'll just really try to focus on relaxing. Okay, am I listening to this person? Let me focus on listening, right? And I really want to give a shout out to silent retreats. If you're up for it, I've done many in my life, and they are wow. If you're ready for that next level, or if you even want to just kickstart, jumpstart what you're doing, I will say a silent retreat can be very difficult if you've had severe physical or emotional trauma in your past. I do want to say that. So if you have a therapist, which I hope you do, if you've had severe trauma, you should ask them first if a silent retreat is a good idea for you. Again, it's not one size fits all for people, but if you've had quote unquote run of the mill stuff, dysfunction and whatever, silent retreats can really change the game. It's kind of, like if you went on a yoga retreat and you were trying to learn yoga, you sort of, or a language immersion program, right? If you're trying to learn a language, it really can jumpstart what you're doing. And silent retreats are pretty bomb. So again, for the right people. So, think about it. If it feels like the most if it feels like I asked you to chop up babies and eat them just now when I mentioned silent retreat, don't do it. That's not for you. Okay. I know that was gross. It's okay. But I was trying to go for like a really disgusting visual. Okay. Moving along. But you can also just try doing silent time for yourself in a day and see what happens. But there's really these immersive experiences can really be profound. I do want to say that. But because I love you right now, you do not have to be part of my Patreon. I will have more journaling prompts in Patreon, but I want to give you one right here to kind of explore your emotional triggers. And that is where you might write about a recent situation where you felt triggered. What thoughts came up? What emotions came up? And again, notice the thought related to, you feel the way you think. So notice those thoughts, very important. And the emotions that come up surrounding that. How did your body react? I want you to, really think about, how is my body during these times? Where do I feel tension? And then, write that and then do a little reflection on, picture that again reflect on how practicing mindfulness might have changed your response in that moment, right? Do you see it? Yeah. So that's what you're doing. But again, there's love here. There's love on Patreon. There's love everywhere. Okay. And then the second part we want to talk about today is practicing self-acceptance and self-compassion, right? So once mindfulness becomes a habit, you're ready to tackle self-acceptance and self-compassion. And while I want to say this really clearly, these two concepts are definitely very closely related. They do have some slight differences. Self-acceptance is about acknowledging and embracing all parts of yourself, all the flaws, all the warts, all the imperfections without judgment. It's really an unconditional approval of who you are. Self-compassion, on the other hand, involves sort of extending that kindness and understanding to yourself, particularly during moments of struggle, during moments of what you consider failure. It's about treating yourself as you would a dear friend. Do you see that? It's like almost more of a comfort. And so together, they are like ultimate keys to emotional healing because they're allowing you to embrace who you are, flaws and all, and to really engage in being kind to yourself. Okay. So let's start with talking about self-acceptance. And if you want to get more on this, I did an earlier episode on how to practice self-acceptance, my top 5 tips. So I'm just going to give you a couple today, but you can go back and listen to that again on Patreon. Everything will be in one place. If it's not, you can look under the video on YouTube, like and subscribe if you're seeing me there and you're seeing my fabulous big bow shirt. Anyway, so you're going to miss all the fashion. I'm a fashion girly. So if you're not watching me on YouTube, you're missing all the fashion. But I understand if you don't want to look at me while you do this. I don't want to look at me while I do this. But also on the relationship tips and tools page on my website or on the podcast page, I have it everywhere because I'm really trying to make it accessible for you to go look at past things I've done and get your learn on. Okay. Because I've gone deep on a lot of these topics before, and I'd love for you to even, how you're learning something and you want to kind of hear it twice in different ways to really integrate the learning. That's what this is great for. Okay. So I really want you to be able to acknowledge and embrace all parts of yourself, even the ones you're not proud of. It's really about understanding that you are enough as you are. You don't have to prove your worth. You don't have to do. And self-acceptance to me is hard. It can be challenging because most of us have that friggin' inner critic that's been running the show for years. And the critic feeds on self-judgment. It feeds on perfectionism. And it makes it very difficult to see your worth. Okay. So we're going to change that. And again, I've done episodes on how to deal with that inner critic in your head and how to stop it, how to stop the overwhelm. So go look at the links and find those and listen or watch or read. You could do any of those. So let's talk about 2 tips to practice self-acceptance right now. One is to stop comparing yourself to others. There's a famous quote by, I hope it's Mark Twain. Sorry, people. I think it's Mark Twain. He said, comparison is the death of joy. Yep. And he's backed by studies. We have got a bunch of research showing that comparing yourself to others diminishes your self-confidence while making you more depressed and anxious, which is why social media is a big, big problem. Okay. So whether you're watching, is Keeping Up with the Kardashians still on? I don't even know. God forbid. Or scrolling incessantly through social media or talking to the other moms and wondering how they seem so together, it's killing you. You've got to stop it. Stop comparing. Stop it, stop it, stop it. Tip number 2 is to keep your word to yourself, okay? When we don't accept ourselves, we end up full of self-doubt. And that results in changing our minds often, valuing other people's opinions more than our own, even people we don't respect. It makes me crazy when my clients will say, oh, so-and-so didn't like this. I'm like, do you even like so-and-so? Didn't that person do something? Isn't that person a drug addict or something? What are you talking about? And that's, talking about, my new York came out. There you go. Little talk. Right? Stop the waffling. And a way to keep out of this cycle is to keep every commitment you make to yourself. And I mean every single one. If you start a home project, but get halfway through and decide you don't like the paint color, finish the job. I don't care. Finish it with the paint color you have and you can change all of it later. Right? There was a reason you picked that color initially. Let that be enough. Move along. Did you tell your friends you were going out on Saturday with them and now it's Saturday afternoon, but now you feel too fat to fit? You don't want to be in public because you don't like how none of your clothes fit, or you don't like how you look in your jeans, or all your friends are thin. You feel self-conscious around them. No, put on your big girl or big boy pants, even if that's literal, and get your gorgeous ass out there. Go out the door. Go do it. I know you're too tired. It's okay. You said yes though, so you have to follow through. Enough. Make it a sacred that when you say something, you follow through, because you will also stop saying so much. If you're not sure that you're going to do it, say it in the moment. Don't be conflict avoidant and say yes, knowing later you're going to cancel, because you get that in your head that you're someone who doesn't keep your word, that, you don't matter enough to keep your word. It's a horrible way to be. Whenever you notice yourself doubting a decision you've made or not making a decision because you're full of doubt about your judgment, stop, breathe, and see it for what it is. This is an opportunity for self-acceptance. You could mess it up. You probably will. Welcome to the human race. You might wish you'd painted the room green later. I don't know, but it's all about practicing this acceptance of all your decisions and starting to see that they're all right in the moment. I always say there's no wrong decisions. I know you don't believe that. I know you want to fight back. There's no wrong decisions, just decisions. That's it. It got you to here. If painting the whole house the wrong color got you to maybe pause in the future before you decide, or if it got you to realize that this color you thought you wanted for the last 40 years is not the color you like, great. Now you know. I don't know what to say. It's okay. Nobody gets it right all the time. Nobody. And anyone who's had any success in life will tell you that failure is part of it. You're going to fail multitude of times before you get it right. If I told you how many business things I've tried that have not worked, oh my gosh. Why does this podcast work? I don't know. It could have been another thing I tried and failed at. I don't know. But I was committed to it. I did it. I said I was going to do it for a year, that first year. And it was slow going in the beginning because, again, I've never advertised it. I've never spent money on it. And I wasn't going to at the time because I was just doing it as a give. I was like, I'm generous to a point. I'm paying for this out of pocket for someone to edit these and, to sit here with my time and do it, and for my assistant to load things, all that. It costs money to do the podcast every week. And I did it for free for all that time. I had a boundary that I wasn't going to also spend more money advertising it. It didn't make sense to me, but I was like, I just had faith. I was like, I'm going to do this every week. That's the commitment I'm making. Even when it was real, trust me, it's really hard sometimes. I'm here every single week with you, except for the times I tell you I'm going to take off. And I even have bonus episodes often every year. So it is because I made a commitment. And when you make the commitment, you got to follow through. And I keep doing that. I'm starting this Patreon community, right? And I know I'm going to commit to it for a year. I don't know how I'll feel in a year. I I think it's the greatest thing ever that I'm ever going to do. I'm so excited. In 6 months, I might not be so excited. I don't know. You might hate it. I might hate it. We have to see. But I know I'm going to stick with it for that amount of time. It's funny because it's one of the reasons I'm not allowing people to prepay for the year at a discount for Patreon right now, because I'm not sure. I don't want to have people signing up in June and prepaying for a year and then I want to stop in January, right? So, this is how we do things, people. We try. And again, I've had many things. I've so much money out the door. I can't even tell you, on things that haven't worked. But it brought me to a place where things did work on the next thing. I know I wouldn't be here with you now if I wasn't willing to take those risks and make commitments, stick to them for a period of time that I commit to, whatever that is, and then see where it lands. That's a lot of it, guys. I don't know and I do it with my clients. This isn't about me and my perfect life and how I do things, because my life ain't perfect, number one. And this is about what's worked for so long with my clients. And again, what I use in my own life too. So the real key to self-acceptance is getting over the self-doubt, right? Like I just said, but somehow, some way, you need to understand that you're doing the best you can with the tools you have, and that this has always been true. It's always been true. I love you. It's always been true. You not only have to accept where you are, you have to accept who you were. I'm going to say that again. You not only have to accept yourself as you are now, you have to accept who you were 10 years ago when you made the decision to marry your partner who turned out to be a narcissist. You have to, right? Yeah, you got to accept the person you were 20 years ago that decided to listen to your parents and go to law school instead of becoming an artist like you wanted. You have to, right? Because who you were at that time, you have to accept who they were and the resources they had and the confidence they had and all the things they knew at the time. You got to accept them and stop beating the crap out of them. Your poor past self. I feel so sorry for them. You guys are so mean. You're so mean. Don't be mean. So when you made the decision to, again, major in philosophy in college, and now you regret it because you can't find a job with your philosophy degree, don't beat yourself up. When you made that choice back in the day, you were doing the best you could with the tools you had at that time. And today you have different tools. That's the good news, right? Today you got new tools because you're here with me. You're here with Abby. You're able to think differently. You're able to make different choices. You also know those choices because of what's failed. That's what you forget. So don't just accept yourself again as you are. Accept yourself as you are. The past is to learn from, not to live in. Did you hear me? Learn from, not to live in. And again, I have a episode called Overcoming Insecurity and Silencing Your Inner Critic. You can listen to that. I'll link to that. And I have another one about, kind of overcoming doubt and that kind of thing. So we'll link to those. So let's wrap up by talking about what self-compassion is. And self-compassion, Dr. Kristen Neff, if you don't know her, I'm not sure what to say to you. She is the, godmother, grandmother, mother, everything, birther of self-compassion. And the reason she's so famous is because, and so well known when you talk about self-compassion, is because she was the first one, arguably, who was able to quantify self-compassion so that we could study it. So we couldn't just say, oh yeah, self-compassion is great. Like, yeah, says who? How do you prove that? There's a lot of things that sound right when you say them out loud, but then when we put them into practice and try to study them, it's not what you think. Like, people thought for years, oh, you should say affirmations. They're going to positive thinking. It's going to really help. No, we found that actually worsens your mood if you don't believe it, what you're saying. Yeah, makes it worse. So just because it sounds right doesn't mean it is. But Neff is a friggin' genius. I have a girl crush on her, obviously, because she's just so smart. I always dream to be smart as these people, I swear. Next life. Okay. So she defines self-compassion. She says that it's treating yourself with the same kindness, concern, and support you would offer a close friend. But she's broken it down into 3 elements, okay? Self-kindness, which is being warm and understanding toward yourself. Number 2 is this idea of what she calls common humanity, which is basically recognizing that suffering is a shared human experience. We all do it. You're not a unicorn. And the 3rd is mindfulness, observing negative thoughts and emotions without judging them. Those are the 3 things. And that's why I was kind of saying you do these in order, right? Do you get it now? The self-regulation and the mindfulness, and now the self-acceptance and self-compassion. So again, we just spoke about mindfulness, and but I'm going to suggest one of Kristen Neff's exercises to work on self-kindness and common humanity. It includes mindfulness too in it, but um, it's good. And by the way, I have a little on the website. I have a little mug. I have these really cute mugs. I do, and they're notebooks too. I think, and there's probably T-shirts that I think it says I'm drunk on self-compassion or something. They're all little plays on my drug addiction. So it's like addicted to hope and self-meditated, and I'm high right now on kindness, I think is one of them, and I'm drunk on self-compassion. Like they're all, aren't I cute? I'm adorable. I know you love me, but they're really nice to have. I mean, I have them, of course, not on my desk right now as I look around. Okay, that's fine. But I'm looking around. I'm like, I know I have things here. It's too far away. I can't get up. But it's really nice sometimes to have something that you can visually kind of remind yourself of. That's the reason I did it. I don't make big money off the mugs or anything. It's really trying to get something that would help you have a visual reminder of something. That's what I was trying to do. But anyway, so Neff calls this is my top tool. I think it's a really good one. Neff calls this tool a self-compassion break. So I want to just be clear. I'm not making this up. This is hers. I'm taking it and I'm giving her credit. That's what's happening right now. And it's meant to remind us again that we're all human. We all make mistakes or struggle, and it's human to judge ourselves. Okay. And here's how you do it. So you think of something that you're struggling with right now. Okay. Or that's causing you some kind of stress or pain. That's it. So just think of something. And then the second step is as you think of it, see if you can feel where that discomfort or stress is in your body. So if you're listening to me somewhere where you could stop for a minute, if you're driving, please keep driving, but focus on the road. But if you're doing anything else, and if you have the ability to just stop for a second and do this, it's great. And you're going to see where that is in your body. Again, is there a tightness in your chest? Do you feel it in your stomach? Do your legs feel really heavy? Are your shoulders up to your chin? Are they way up to your ears? Is your jaw really tight? Are you wrinkling your forehead? Like, where are you feeling this? Does your throat feel like it's hard to breathe or something? And then you want to say to yourself, this is a moment of suffering, or whatever feels more natural to you. This sucks. This really hurts. This is stress I'm feeling. Okay. That's kind of the mindfulness part. And next, you're going to say to yourself something like, lots of people have struggles in their lives, or I'm not the only one who feels this way, or I'm not alone in my life and how I feel. Or it's impossible to never have difficulties. It's impossible not to struggle, right? Or have trouble with something. There you go. And then now put your hands over your heart, or cup the side of your face, or give yourself a hug, or any other kind of soothing touch that feels right to you. This is the common humanity component. And now you're going to say to yourself, may I be kind to myself, or may I forgive myself, or may I be patient with myself? Whatever feels natural to you. It has to feel natural. And this is obviously the self-kindness part, right? It's great to take as many self-compassion breaks as you can throughout the day. And I want you to try this one day. Just try it, or try it a few times during the day. My suggestion, again, is to set that reminder for 3 times per day on your phone and do this. Instead of the sings, do this. Do this 3 times a day. And see what kind of difference it makes in how you feel and where your attention goes. I'm telling you, it's really good. And I want to be clear that at the end of the day, I am like such a cynical New Yorker. I don't do well. I came up in a time in the 80s when I was first counseling, when John Bradshaw was really popular, and hug a teddy bear and all this stuff. And no shade to John Bradshaw, none at all. Man's brilliant, and not for me. It didn't speak to me. I felt self-conscious and embarrassed by the process. I didn't like it. And so I started to get in my head that this is what all this stuff was, like, ugh, it's just also like your inner child is feeling this and needs to flow. And I don't know, didn't do well by me. There's some pieces of it now I can say with a straight face and I can actually feel and feel good about, but some of that's hard. So I'm telling you that the self-compassion break, if you're like me, at first might feel a little strange. So just do it on your own. Do it. No one has to know. But I want you to push through whatever discomfort you might be feeling, because it's really important. Okay. I'm just telling you, try it out. I was shocked at how different and good I felt. Just want to say. Okay. So, I mean, in the end, the more you keep your heart open to yourself, the more love you have to give others. Just remember that. And I'll give you a little journaling prompt too for self-compassion reflection. Because I love you. I know there's, again, more journaling prompts in Patreon, but here's one for you now. I don't want anyone to think like, oh, we get less now that she does Patreon. No, you don't. You getting just as much as you always got. So this would be kind of the same as what we did. You want to think about a recent time you were hard on yourself. Think about a time you were hard on yourself and write about how you might approach the same situation with kindness and understanding, right? Like, what words of support would you offer a close friend in your shoes? Okay. Yeah, I know. And I'm going to highly suggest you listen to my loving kindness guided meditation every day for 1 week to help you learn how to have more self-compassion and more compassion to others. Again, you can search on YouTube. We will link to it in all the places I link to things also, but it's really such a game changer. If you read the comments under that video, a lot of people, and I don't have ads on that. So don't worry about like it's going to stop and have an ad in the middle. There's no ads. You'll see a lot of people commented that they cry. I cry still during it sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes I'm so like right there. It's incredible. So just throwing that out there. It's really great. And if I want to put all this together, this episode, all this self-regulation, mindfulness, self-acceptance, and self-compassion, this emotional healing, it's a journey. And I hate that word usually. I do. I apologize for using it, but I can't think of a better one off the top of my head right now. It's a journey and it requires patience and persistence. It's a practice, if you want to think of it that way. It's a practice. And like any practice, you have to have patience and you have to persist. So by mastering last week's lesson on self-regulation and then adding this week's teachings on mindfulness, self-compassion, self-acceptance, you can absolutely create a foundation for lasting change. I'm telling you right now. Remember, because healing isn't about fixing yourself because you're broken. You're not broken. It's about nurturing yourself because you're worthy of love and care. That's what it's about. Okay? All right. That is it for this week. If you want to stay, and I'll talk more again about the love letter, my weekly love letter and Patreon, you are welcome to stay. If not, if you've already heard it before or you're not interested, that's great too. That's fine. I am sending you off, reminding you that there is great, great, great love here for you. I'm here for you. Be there for yourself. I love you if no one's told you this week. Have an amazing rest of your week, and I'll talk to you real soon. Okay, it's just us. Is it just us people around? Is that all that's happening here? Okay. So I wanted to talk quickly about and again, I did this at the end of episode 316. So if you've already listened to that, you've already heard it. If you just want to hang out with me, I love having you. So hello. The love letter, again, I've been sending that out for years, and it's just that. It's meant to supply you with a little love for the week, a short story, an inspiration, a motivation. If you are already on my love letter list, you will be immediately transferred to, as of when this podcast is coming out in mid-January, that's when the love letter is shifting. So you will be put on what's called Love Bites, which is free, which is 2 times a month. You'll be getting my love letter on the 2nd and 4th Wednesday of every month instead of every week. And that's free. And that's the same love letter that everybody else is getting. And there you go. And I love you. And I hope it brings you much joy. If you want to continue to get the love letter every week, it's going to be $1.99 USD. No, $1. That's what the dollar is. A United States dollar. $1.99 a month, or you can prepay for the year, which is $19.99. If you prepay for the year, you get my 5 to Thrive Relationships Edition course for free, which is a $19.99 value. So again, I feel like this is a no-brainer, but it's up to you. And that you get, I love this course. I completed it a few months ago. I'm really proud of it. We're going to be putting that out now. And it's meant to be 5 minutes a week to improve your life. A little lesson, a little nugget to take away, a little Abbyism for the day, some things you can work on in just 5 minutes. If you don't have 5 minutes, I can't help you. Okay. I don't even know what to say anymore. You got to have 5 minutes for yourself. So that's what it's meant to do. And you get one a week and you can save them, and they're not in order. So if you miss a few weeks and then come back in or leave and do 5 a week, you can do whatever you want. And it will be helpful and it will help change your life. Okay. And I over delivered on that as usual. So if you want to do 5 minutes a day, you can. I have journaling prompts in there. I've got so much stuff in there if you want it, but 5 minutes, you just do the top, you're done. And then of course, Patreon, which is the one, excuse me, the One Love Collective. I have to drink. The One Love Collective, which I'm super excited about. And I guess what I want to say differently is that I thought of doing an online community for years. And I've been told to do memberships and I mean, all kinds of things to like earn money and, make more money. And every time I thought of doing a membership or something, my heart would sink. I'm not even joking. Like I would feel the energy drain out of my body. And my kids went off to college, both of them, at the same time. Well, my son had been in community college and went off to a 4-year, and my daughter went straight to a 4-year. And so as of August, I suddenly became an empty nester of August of 2024. And I need to tell you, it was so interesting. Within a month, I was like, oh, I want to do a Patreon. I want to do an online community. It's like all this time and energy and attention that I was giving to my kids, I realized was freed up. I mean, anybody who's a parent listening knows, like, everything you do, every time I went on a business trip, I was like, when am I going to get home? How am I going to call the kids? Who's giving them dinner? Do they have their stuff for their practices for softball and baseball? And you're consumed with kids no matter what decision you make. What time I'll be home just from a regular work day? What's for dinner? Are they eating lunch? Do they need money for something? I mean, oh my God, all that's gone right now because they're both away at school. So I talk to them and I support them, but I'm not part of their day-to-day lives, of keeping them alive, and guiding. So all this energy I have, it's so funny to me. I realized that was the thing that changed. Now I am dying to do Patreon. I can't wait to have this online One Love community. I think we're going to grow something incredible. I have just so much energy and excitement for it. I am motivated. I am over delivering as I do because that's how much I love you. And I really have always wanted the podcast to be a place where people could get kind of free therapy. That was the idea, right? This idea of my mission of that everyone in the world deserves to have access to really evidence-based research and practices and tools that really work. And not everybody can afford therapy or not everybody can access it for whatever reason. And this was meant to be that, always was, and still is. And the online community is just broadening that. So you have each other access to like, how great, right? Someone who thinks like you, and now you're struggling with how to apply these boundaries with your mom. And now you've got someone who's the same education as you do in the Abby world of boundaries. And me too, I'll jump into places, but it's really meant for people, the online part is really meant for you to support each other. And I'll obviously facilitate that and help that get moving, but I'm not supposed to be the hub of that. You guys are the hub of that. And then I will do these live Ask Dr. Abby Q&As a couple times a month. And if we love that and everything goes according to plan, I'll do more of those. But I wanted to start with what I knew I could do and what could work, and then we could build from there. And again, all this, this one place where all the episodes are, where all the downloads and the journaling prompts, and you get extra things and you get bonuses and you get, so you can go deeper on things. All of that is what's included here. And so you can go to patreon.com/Abby Medcalf, or you can go to my website, abbymedcalf.com, and there's a Patreon tab at the top. And in there, as soon as you click, you'll see the 3 tiers, $5, $8, and $12, depending on what you want to do. And it'll show you all the things that are included in each tier. I don't want to spend a lot of time now because I did that last week for last week's, but it's all written out. It's all there, what you're getting. Every tier, I really thought, I heard your feedback. I asked people what they would like, and I heard, and you wrote to me, and that's what I created. So I started with that. That's what I started with. I started with you. And we can co-create this community together to be everything you want it to be. And obviously I'll have boundaries around that. You might be like, well, we need you every day then to have an hour Q&A. Obviously that's probably not going to happen, but we can talk about it. Maybe there is a way to I don't know. Maybe I could charge enough money to make that happen. I don't know. But I'd like to not charge any more money and still be able to include more things. So I want us to all figure that out together. I want this to stay affordable. I want it to feel super valuable, like the best money you spend, literally, like such a no-brainer. That's how I want it to feel. So I'm going to need your feedback and to hear from you as to what works and what doesn't. So that's it. I hope you sign up. I can't wait to see you there. We're going to be starting the first live Q&A. I'm looking at my calendar right now. I should know this already. The love letter to Love Bites starts on January 15th. That one that comes out that day is you're going to just be in Love Bites automatically if you don't sign up for the love letter, which again, if you go to the love letter tab on my website, you'll be able to choose. And there'll also be in the love letter that's coming, you probably already have it in your mailbox by the time you're listening to this on the 8th of January. It should be there already, like in that love letter, all the ways you can sign up and all that. And then on the 22nd of January is the first live Ask Dr. Abby Q&A. And then from there, it'll be, again, the second and fourth Wednesday of every month. That is the fourth Wednesday of that month. That's why we're starting it there. And that's it. Isn't it kind of fun? See, just even now, we're just hanging out. We're just hanging out. No one knows. I love you. I'm so glad you're here. If you're sitting here till the very end, you're my peeps. I don't know what else to say. You bring me really great joy, and I feel grateful every day to have this connection with you. I don't know what I did in another life for this, but must have been good. Have a wonderful week, and I'll talk to you real soon.